Hey everybody, this your girl Donna D, aka the Urban Mommy, and I am back with another podcast. Today I am joined by an actual friend of mine by the name of Nick Thomas. Nick, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Of course, thank you. So, can you introduce yourself? Let everybody know. We go a little further than New Orleans, so let everybody know who you are.
Yep, all is well. So, husband first. I do have a wife and two sons. But then outside of that, also I'm an author. I have two award-winning books. One is I Was Mentally and Physically Drained. That's my first book. And then the second one is Diary of a Broken Man. Outside of that, I'm naturally a football coach, but then also a life coach. And really, as I journeyed just from my darkness to light, I found my purpose, which is making those connected to me better. So that's where I am. That's my everyday. And that's what I look to do to just help us grow and become better overall.
Okay, so I know you mentioned that you are a life coach. So, can you
Yep.
talk a little bit about that? Because a life coach is a relatively, well, it's not new, but it's relatively new, but I think it is so needed, especially for men. So can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that?
One of the things that I believe hinders us a lot is because we try to take life on all by ourselves. And a lot of time we're fighting and we're depressed and we're going through things. And definitely for men, we try to hold it all in. And I was a person that did the exact same thing. As I journeyed and started really releasing and write my books, I realized that I was actually doing myself an injustice. And I realized that it wasn't just me. I wasn't just in this situation by myself. So I started and even breaking and coming out of my own comfort zone, just talking more, just as I became better and the things that I did for myself and the help that I received, started trying to make sure that I voiced that to help other people go through those exact same things. So again, I don't have all the answers, but for me, I'm an open book. Everything that I've been through, again, it's on pages now. It's out for the world to see everywhere. But I talk about everything. My life is not about secrets, even spiritually. For me, I've gone to a different place, and I really am thankful that the Lord has delivered me and put me in a place where I am now, and I want to make sure that I help others do the exact same thing. So, as people journey from their darkness to light the same way I did, I try to make sure that I am there, that I'm sharing just nuggets and things that I did to help me go to the next level with everybody else.
Okay, so growing up, did you did you grow up with a father figure, or this was things you learned all on your own?
It's funny because my stepdad was in my life, and I call him dad, since I was 3 years old. But my mother was so strong. He was in a house, but he really, I wouldn't say was the father figure. My mother was the dominant one. So my dad was there, but he was really just chill. All of the discipline and right and wrong and the don't play with me and don't play with this house, that really came for my mother. So my dad was there, but he did not groom me to be the man or the husband that I am today, which is funny because I would say for sure I grew up in a two-parent household, and then that should clear a lot of things up. But it was just so different, our situation growing up.
Right, I agree. Okay, so how do you think things have changed since, like, because all of this, like, everybody else didn't read the book, so I have to,
Yeah,
different
all
questions.
good.
So how did you change, or when did you realize that you had to make a change and become a different person for your boys and your
You
wife?
know, yeah, to be honest, the first situation that happened was my dad actually passing. And he was 46. And I mention this a lot. At that time, me and my wife weren't in the best place. So I had kind of went and got, not kind of, but I went and got like an apartment on my own. I was doing my own thing. And then my wife actually knocked on the door to tell me that my dad had passed. So outside of a love I had never saw before. I didn't really even know what love was at that point, but I saw just her in a different light. So one, my dad passing helped me to understand that life is short. I talk to my family often. My family is in Macomb, of course, we're from here. But my dad ate earthly breakfast, and then he never ate an earthly meal again. So it was a shocker. And for me, it's different because we take life for granted, and a lot of times we think that when we lay down that tomorrow is automatic and that we're going to wake up, and that didn't happen. So I was able to see that firsthand, and again, that let me know that life is short. And then the second thing was really me asking my son, and I'm an old school parent, and I discipline hard. And I tell you, me and my oldest son, we've gone through some times, and I know that again I was a hard parent, but I asked him, did he love me? Or did he think I loved him? And his answer was sometimes. And that really broke me, and it put me in a place to make me realize that I had to change, because again, I was disciplining him hard, only because I wanted him to be great, and I wanted the world to see all the things that I knew he could do, and who he was. But when he gave me that answer, it really just tore me up, and it made me realize that it was time for me to do things different in my life.
Okay, and actually, just so y'all know the background, Coach Nick, which I call him is Coach Nick. Coach Nick was my son's coach, so our boys are the same age and they grew up together. Basically, they're the same age. I think they even went to the same school at some point. So,
Yeah.
and both of us have good boys, but our boys, we live in a city where um, peer pressure is big. So a lot of times I get upset when people try to blame parents for different things that kids are doing, and they may judge a child and say that they don't come from this or they don't come from that. But I know you are a good parent. You and Ari are wonderful parents, and Nick is a good child, my child as well. But it's hard. So can we talk a little bit about raising kids in this environment?
Yeah, and the things, and a lot of times, and what you're saying, that really is it. And Nick has more changed the coin, and going in a different direction. But when our children leave the house, um, sometimes the only thing that we can do is really just pray and trust God. And that's one of the hardest things that I really and truly had to do. And I remember even going to like a counseling session, and I'm talking to my pastor, and I'm like, I wanted Nick to get it so bad, and just when he would make his mistakes, I would just blow up. And my pastor even told me one time, he was like, well, when Nick, even if he wants to come and release to you, you make it hard for him, because every time he wants to tell you something that he could be dealing with in the street, you turn into the Hulk. And that kind of made me realize again that we had to take a step back. But again, once our kids leave our door sills, the devil is out to kill and destroy. And again, not even just bringing and blaming things on the enemy. But life is tough, and we all know that. And everybody, the things that we try to instill in our kids, that doesn't happen. But again, these kids are fighting just so many different things. The things that we did not see, and we were blind to when we were kids. Our kids don't see that. Our kids go into a world that doesn't always have their best interest at heart, and they do have the opportunity to do bad. So yes, we could be pushing everything that they should hear, and doing our jobs as parents, but then they go into a class setting, and they have now 30 people that are saying you shouldn't be listening to that. Let's do that. Let's go here. So it is tough. And again, we do have to come together, and things have changed. Back in the day, it's it takes a village to raise a kid. Well, now you better not tell anybody else, kids, something else, because they don't see it that way, and they're thinking about disrespect and, oh, that's my child. So again, things have just changed. But when our kids leave the doors, it is different. They go into the world on their own sometimes, and they only have the training that you've done.
Right, and I like that you asked them about, do I love you? So I'm actually gonna ask that same question, because a lot of times we don't see, or we don't know what our kids, are thinking, and that's big. And I never thought about it like that, because I'm the same way. So I'm old school. So I'm not taking anything, and I guess I can be tough,
Yeah.
but that's because we try to be tough because we love them and we know the dangers that's in this world, and we try to keep them from it. But sometimes we can push them that way because of that, and it's a difficult it's sometimes it's a big disconnect that's kind of big, kind of hard. with
Yeah,
these
one
these
hundred
big.
percent. I agree with you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, the sun killing me over here. But so my next question, back to your book. So when you were going through the things that you talk about in the book,
Yeah.
what was it, or what point was it that you decided that I want to put this into a book so that I can help more people? Like, at what point? What was that point for you?
I've always journaled and just wrote in general, just as my release. But as I started to feel better and feel like I was starting to make some grounds, I really just it came to me that I could not have been in this by myself. So I started to talk about it just a little bit more, and the things that I was putting on page and sharing with my wife, it just made me feel better. And then again, starting to have these conversations like, hey, what do you think about this? And doing polls on all these social media sites. And people do want to talk, but they want to have a place where it feels sacred for them. So it pulled me out a little bit more. And that was really it. So I wanted to get the books out, well, the first book out so bad, just because I realized that it wasn't just me in this situation, and that if I could pour out and have people know some crazy truths, that it'll make them vulnerable enough to start to talk and heal a little bit, because we all need that.
Definitely. At what age, or do you remember when you first started doing therapy?
Shoot. Well, one, the honest truth is Nick helped me with that, with that for sure. So I guess just going through him. So I'll probably say probably about 25. But really, and I say even with my wife as we were going through things, I was really against it because I'm naturally a private person, which is funny because I have these books and it has so much stuff in it.
Right.
Um, but I don't even truly say that I would have said, you know what, yes, we should be talking to people and figuring out who we were. Probably until 35. So you say probably 10 years before I accepted the fact that going and not holding it in is a good thing. And one of the things, even when I go and talk around and do motivational speaking, I give like people weights and I have them hold it, because when we hold things in, there is a pressure, and I, even when I pray like that, we just release those type of things off of our shoulders, because we hold all this stuff down and everything that we're going through, and it is indeed a weight. So not, therapists don't have all the answers for everything that you're going through, but sometimes just talking about it is a release, and it just helps you to open your mind up to start to think about what direction we should be going in. That's how the second book came about. So I wrote, I was mentally and physically drained, and I really didn't think I was going to write another book because there was so much pouring. So I was like just literally drained even when that book came out. But it helped me to, like, I had to figure out why I was in that place, and that's how Diary of a Broken Man came about. Just because it was a release, because I didn't hold it to myself anymore, and I put it on these pages.
Okay, so when you talked about being mentally and physically drained, what were some of the effects of being mentally and physically drained? That we know, we already talked about, of course, with your kids.
Yeah.
You may be a little bit more angry, but what are some of those other effects that somebody needs to look for to see if they're mentally or physically drained?
The crazy thing is, and this is going on social media, but I don't think, and I'll use this quote that we always say, but nobody truly checks on the strong friend. So a lot of times we are moving around, and I use this all the time, that some of us have the biggest smiles, but the saddest souls. So for us, it is really just looking to see where people are. And a lot of times we'll say, like, how you doing? And we don't even listen for the answer. So I like to be specific and really asking those questions, because like, a person can't just tell me how your day going. It's okay. Well, why only okay? Because that's not a natural answer. And again, it could be something that somebody needs to say, get out. But and even for, I'll use this for myself. How often people pull away, where they are not talking and releasing, and you don't hear from them from for a couple of days. Well, what is that person going through? What are they dealing with? All like, you good? You and again, we miss those type of signs because a lot of times, again, the people that we believe are the strongest have so much going on. And again, I'm one of those people. If you didn't know that I had some things going on, look, I coached your son, and you would never know that there were two Brooks, brewing inside of me. And I talk about this a lot, but even with my professional career, I'm sitting in meetings with millionaires, and I'm looking at, like, why am I here? And I hate these people, and I don't want to be around. And how long this meeting is going to last? And that is the way that I was feeding my family. So even the things that I should be doing to make sure that I'm surviving overall, I couldn't even find a comfort in that place.
So how did you find that comfort? I know you said journaling, so it was
Yeah.
just did. I mean, you also have to have a supportive partner as well. So what are some of those things? Because a lot of people are in that place now. So what
Yeah.
is some, I guess, advice you would have to those people?
Yeah. So again, talking to your spiritual leader, getting with someone that can understand you, that's not going to judge you. I really am thankful for my pastor. And here's just a truth. And sometimes we put pressure on our spouses and those that are closest to us. But the reality is, for me, me and my wife has been together since 2003. But I really believe that it's only been probably 2.5, 3 years now that she's really known some of my deepest secrets. So again, we have kids together, but I still wasn't in a place where I could pour out to her. So it is a maturity thing. Also, it's something where, again, you don't get bogged down with yourself, and you beat yourself up. We have to let it go. So we have to go and be willing to talk to even a friend. You don't have to, start there. Even if okay, listen, I know you're not going to tell my secrets. Just hear me out. Let me vent for a second. And even as a husband, that's something that I had to get better with, because every time my wife had something that she may wanted to say, I'm immediately trying to give her an answer. And she don't want to hear that. And I ain't even reflect on that or pray on that or anything. So sometimes we just have to have, like you said, that support system that understands that right now is a time where we should give feedback, or right now is a time that we have to just say, okay, and just let them go and get it out, and then understand that person where we can revisit and go there. But talking to somebody and having, again, some people that understand you and where you are, that's not going to judge you, I think that helped me out the most.
Okay, and so you have boys, so you are raising little men. So what do you do differently with them now?
Yeah, it's funny, um, because I think about and mention this even in Diary of a Broken Man. A lot of times, and I'll use Nick again for an example, because my children really, I feel like they're in. That they are two different sides of me. I know that right now, correcting things with Nick, because I was a broken man training a young man, right? So if I was broken at that point, I was only training my son to be broken as well. So the anger issues that I had in the past, I see that sometimes in my oldest, right? My little one, well, now I'm more reserved and I hold it in, and I like, all right, I know this is, let's show maturity. I see that in my little one. So as men, and as, again, parents, and your ladies also, we have to just make sure that we are doing the same thing, because when we are broken and not healed, we are pushing that same negativity out to the ones that are closest to us.
Okay, so since we're talking about the, you being broken,
Mhm.
how hard was it for you to start the forgiveness process?
Um, Honestly, I would say this, and this is really just truth. It is tough, because for me, one of the things that I think about in general, and again, not perfect even in this situation, but the first thing that we do a lot is say, I'm a man. So some things should just not naturally happen. But it is a journey just overall, and that truly is something that I've learned, we have to have small victories and count them as small victories. So where my house before was in an uproar, and we would, in general, whoever we talking to, we're fussing and fighting about everything, and we're arguing. Well, now we don't have serious conversations in our house anymore. And me and my wife, if there's something that we have to talk about, we don't have serious conversations in our bedroom, because that's supposed to be our sanctuary. I don't want to do it in the living room. We have to talk. Let's go sit in the car. Let's go outside. So I've learned again that certain things have to be, and this whole process is a journey. So I'm constantly trying to figure out how we can become better overall. So if our place is a place where there's something that happens, something that's doing wrong, we've grown. And again, it's taken some work, but again, understand that this thing is a journey, and each day just finding small victories to say, let's go from the place where we used to be to a place where we want to go.
Okay, so you mentioned that y'all don't fuss in the house. So why is that?
Because this should be a place of peace. And we don't argue much at all anyway. Of course, we're a natural couple and we have kids and decisions that we have to make that are important. But when we come through our door, it should be light. Because the truth is, I remember there was a time again where we hated each other, and we were staying in the same house. But let's not let this be it. When we come inside, things should be settled. We should have comfort. This should be again a place of peace, just like I mentioned for the kids. When we go outside, work and coworkers and haters and bad drivers and all of these things that we have already coming against us, why bring that into our household? Yeah, we're going to have disagreements as a family and things that are not 100%. But why break up our house the same way outside is trying to break up, homes and houses as well? No, let's have some place where we can come, and it can be a chill place, again, a place of peace. And that's what we've grown to make our home after a lot of destruction and hell, because that's the place that we come from. That's just the truth.
That is very true. But I like that with the not fussing inside. That's kind of, I never like, this is new to me. I like that idea with that. So back to being, I guess, mentally and physically drained.
Yeah.
So that is in your relationships, and that's with your children, with your wife,
Hmm. Hmm.
and with and with your job. Were you able to be different in any one of those settings? You know how like sometimes you'll pretend, oh, I'm very happy at work, so I'm
Yeah.
good at work, but at home I'm this person. So were you the same Nick in all three of those places?
Yeah, I think that I can put on the front pretty good, and I think I did that. But again, sometimes because, and I mention this a lot, and this is, of course, I'm an equal opportunist here, but being a man is really, it's tough just in general. So I use it's we have to get to a place where um, we do have to front sometimes. All right. Because again, I'm going out into the street trying to take care of the bills, and I'm at work and I have all this stuff going on. But in my mind, I can't get fired because I still have to come back and deal with everything that's making me physically and mentally drained. Right. So, yes, I go to the street and I work in the customer service industry. So, my job, been in management, my job naturally makes me sometimes have to put on the front. So, yeah. So now I can't go to work and release the way that I need to or take time off because I am dealing with this. So now that even could affect my family negatively because I haven't had a chance to release outside. I was pissed off. Maybe let's just use my house for an example. So I was pissed off with the house before I left. I went to work. They pissed me off, but I couldn't go off on them because I'm trying to take care of the house. And now I come back and I'm even more pissed off because all I do for y'all and y'all just don't get it. All right. So again, yes, you have to front for sure sometimes.
You say sometimes, huh? Um, so when you were drained, it was also because you kind of had a lot of different things going on.
Yeah.
It was a lot of things. So being a man, I don't see how I can say this. I want to say you kind of one of those. I don't want to say like a real man because I hate when people say you're a real man. But you, based on the stuff that I did see in the book, you like a real man, and I'm saying that as opposed to the differences now when men are talking, they aren't. they're kind of straying away from being. I'm trying to be say this the best way I can without offending anybody. You know how sometimes men these days they don't want to be a provider.
Yeah.
So it's we running into a different generation of men. And I do know this from your book and knowing you just personally, you're not that type of man. You are, I guess, a classic, typical provider, this type of man. Do you see that when you have men that you try to help?
Yeah, and I'm going to say this, and because I have to split it. One of the things that I think that we are, our negative is just in general, and definitely like with couples, we're competing against each other so much. And I really believe that that is one of the things that is breaking us down, because the we have not a lot of guys are serious, not a lot of ladies are serious in other situations. Both genders want to play their own role and play a little bit. So we run into situations where, all right, I think that I want to be serious, but I'm going against a young lady right now. We have this whole thing with tradition and so forth and so on. So both sides are wounding and cutting each other. So yes, men, not all of us are serious, and some of us want to play. I had this in a book, and yes, we play games because we can. But the thing with that is the men, this battle, it's what's tearing us up. So yes, and then I again say this in the book. We give each other excuses. So for the ladies, all right, yep, I'm gonna go be a being politically wrong, right? A gold digger, right? I'm gonna go see what I can get because the last man that I was with, he thought he had money or said he had money, and we doing all this, and that's what he thought he should lead with. So my natural thing is this, and I don't have a problem with a woman that says, oh, this is what I'm looking for, because women want comfort. We know that no woman wants to be with a man that can't give her comfort. And as a man, we shouldn't want a woman that can't provide the things that we need per communication and conversation. So yes, we have to both be willing to find a common ground and be willing to openly communicate about every single thing. That way we can say, hey, yes, this is where I am. Nope, I don't want to be in a relationship right now. I'm not going to be a provider. I believe that all attraction first is physical. I thought you was fine. I thought you was sexy. I want to have sex with you. Well, and then the woman can respond however she wants. Because we do have men like that. And then we need to be serious as men to not get to a place where we say, damn, I keep striking out. One, maybe change your position and where you are. But hey, this is what I'm looking for, and be serious. And sometimes that takes restraint. Okay, let's get past this physical thing because I do believe that you're sexy. But this is what I'm physically looking for. All right. Can you provide these things? I'm going to provide for you, period. But here's what I need in return for me being the provider and the man that you need. Sorry, that was a really long answer.
No, that's a good answer. So since we did, let's get more back to the book because you talk about some situations with men and women, and you talk a little bit about I guess like cheating type of
Mm-hmm.
situations and stuff. Can you kind of talk about that a little?
Yeah, so it's really, I believe, a very simple answer why uh, men cheat and women cheat also, and it's in a book. One, I'm going to say this: relationship immaturity. And I think that the way that we get over that is open and honest conversations, no matter what it is, no matter how much it hurts. One of the things that my wife and I do is every month, I don't let a new month come in without me going and everybody laughs that knows me about this because I call it a husband report card. So we go out, and again, we don't have this conversation in our house. Normally, we go pick a restaurant. Could be one that's just not really cheap, but not truly fancy, right? Let's go sit down and let's go have a conversation. And we ask each other, where are you in life? Where are you with the job? Did you have enough sex this month? What can I be doing better? And that is a real conversation because what that does is it eliminates excuses. So if a man or woman has a need, but they cannot communicate that need, then they're going to go somewhere where they can communicate that to somebody else or have, again, find a different release. So, and again, relationship immaturity and lack of communication, I believe, is one of the biggest reasons because we're afraid to say and talk our truth. And again, that could be that, the couple is a person's going to explode. Or if I ask you, do you think the sex was good this month? And I tell you no, and now that person is overly offended, and now they don't have sex for the next month. Well, what is that person going to go and do? Is they're going to go and try to find sex? But that is again one of the things that I believe is huge for relationships. We talk about everything. If I make a wrong decision now with the boys, all right, and if it's you know again bad, we handle it wherever we are, go and have the conversation. But again, hey, this is what I would like to see next month. Maybe you could have brought me in and included me on that disciplinary decision that you made. So again, relationship immaturity and lack of communication is top of the list of why I think relationships don't always last or work the right way.
Okay. So when they talk about cheating and then reconciling after that, do you believe that cheating should be a deal breaker?
I think it depends on a couple. One, I don't believe that if you're going to tell a person that you forgive them, that you should keep bringing it up. I believe that time heals all wounds. But like I say in my first book, if you have a scab and you continue to pick it, it is never going to heal. So again, if you decide, hey, this person is worth it, and we had this conversation, and don't come in here BSing me, telling me this is why, let me know how we ended up in this place. And if that is something that you are willing to work and journey to get over, then I believe that can become better and things can be worked out. But again, trust is something that is built every single day. And as men or women, whoever is the person that may have made the error, you have to realize that time, and that doesn't mean it's going to be 3 months or whatever. Again, you journey to getting better. But yes, if they are both serious and can start moving in a different direction and gain each other's trust continuously, because that does come with hurt. Yes, I do believe that relationships can become better even after something like that. It's gonna take some time though, for sure.
Definitely. All right. So in the event that it does happen, do you believe that it's important to give or ask for details? Like you said, like when you ask and say, "How did we get here?" So you
Yeah.
want to know how did we get here so that we can talk. But do you also want to know why? Why him? Who was it? What time? Where? Do you need to know all that kind of stuff?
So I think that is natural for us to do in anger, but I don't believe in asking questions that you don't want to know the answer to, because it's a serious one. All right, because the truth is this. Let's say, and again, not saying that this is the right thing, but I'll give two scenarios. Let's say that a couple has an issue because of weight. All right, and a guy is specific, and he had this dream wife in his mind, and even though yes, I had your kid and so forth, but he does not overlook the fact that he saw you always as this, and then you move away from that. Well, are you ready to hear that he just called you fat, that we might say, because that's what we're gonna, when we hurt, we think about things like that. When you're talking about my weight, I had your kids. All right. So is that something that you want to hear? So again, if you can handle it, then maybe ask if that's going to help you to be better. But again, I would not, because for a guy, it could be that I think that you're too small, you're not working it the way that you should, and I haven't climaxed them forever. All right, and do you want to hear that? And now your manhood is tore up because your manhood is tore up.
Right. Do you think, speaking of manhood being tore up, do you think that women could accept cheating more easily than a man can accept cheating?
I would say yes, because we're gonna put our pride and ego in a way. I know for me, for sure, I would feel that way. That Coretta King didn't marry again, because how could you replace Martin Luther King, right? So yeah, no, I admit you're not supposed to cheat on me, but again, as men, we are emotional, and we get tore up because we're not supposed to have our ego damaged, where women may operate more off of feelings, we and emotions. We operate off of ego.
Definitely off of ego. And I always, talk about it. They always be trying to fuss with me all day with on Facebook, because I always mention that. But it's like, it's so crazy to me that women, every time I talk, the ambulance will come. But it's so crazy to me that women had been being messed over. Not saying they weren't doing the messing over
Mhm.
too, but women were messed over in general more. But we just kind of had to take it on the chin and move on and rebuild. But it is so hard for a man to understand or even fathom that their woman has been with another man.
Yeah, look, and because relationships in our head, I feel it's supposed to be right sacred, right? That's supposed to like. I'm not gonna tell you a lie. When I first met my wife, man, and again with all the stuff that we've gone through, I told her I owned her, and her ass can't go nowhere. She mine, my property, right? But the truth is this: I really did feel that way because before my wife, I was really in the street and I didn't do relationships. So when I got to a point where she put her foot down and was like, "Look, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do it, right?" So I'm like, well, damn, if I've given up all this non-responsibility and all this fun that I quote unquote was having, then I don't want you to make any mistakes out here. And I want you to understand that, look, I gave a lot up or whatever, all this freedom that I had. So my expectation changed. So again, and not even using cheating, but my expectation for my wife has always been different. And I think just naturally, because for me, before her, I didn't think I would be married or have kids or nothing. I was just in the street.
right? So, what makes a man, and of course, it's not all men, but what makes a
Hmm.
man in general rebuild with the woman that he's with versus continue to move on? Because a lot of times when they separate, you get your own spot, you're having fun, you're going out, you're whatever. But something inside of you makes you miss what you had at one point, even though you always thought what you wanted was the freedom and the fun.
Yeah. I believe this even before my wife singled me. Everybody, I believe, wants companionship, even if it is temporary. So, yeah, you don't want to, have nobody cuddle with you or by your house all day, but sometimes you want to go to the show. Sometimes you want to go out. Sometimes you want to do just something. But the biggest thing is this. There's two things. When I saw my wife the day my dad passed, I saw a hurt that let me know that she was a part of me. Again, having to learn what love was even after that, right? I knew that she was a part of me. She was bone of my bone. That day I saw flesh of my flesh. But outside of that, as I go and again don't have many friends and do hanging out, but my wife is my place of peace. And I really mention that so much to so many people. If the job pissed me off, we're at a place right now where I know I want to come home to my wife because it's gonna be a place of peace that she gives me naturally, just a different feeling that the world doesn't give me, right? So even right or wrong, a person cheating or not, whatever it is, my wife does something different for me that the world doesn't do. And that really is what makes me come back home. And you think about, well, if y'all been together since 2003, how come you just feel about that so passionately? Because now I've journeyed to really being secure in who I am and what I want as a person and the things that I'm looking for in life. So now I don't have to beat my wife up and not have her do things that she want to do and hide my insecurities and things like that because we are both grown enough where we are solid separate, but we are together like never before. So she does something different for my feelings overall.
So, for for her doing something different, how did that come, or is that something that's natural because you two are so compatible, or was that years of just practice, like talking to her every day, like you can actually be free? Because we have some relationships where people are together maybe for years, they come home, they take a bath, they go to sleep, may have sex, but that's it. It might be small talk, but what's the difference between you and your wife versus some other situations?
I think realizing that we both want each other, that we again are both good. There's no competing really now. We understand that we are again good separate, but we just do something different. But again, there was a time where we hated each other, right? So living in the same house, and I remember having an argument. I was like, I feel like you're my roommate, right? Well, how do we grow past that? It is again having the difficult conversations, but we've made up in our minds that we are it. I know I'll never marry again. I know that she's the one. And I joked about it a little bit before, but I know she's not gonna go anywhere because that's what I want to do. No mess ups, no none of that. How can we just continue to journey? And again, every month going and have conversations. about how can we get better. So it's not something that is the answer is not right away, but the journey is every single day, and it is work. Again, not fussing in a house now is light years away from being cursed out in a house, which is where we were years ago. So it's every day. But the first answer is deciding that both people have to decide that this is what we want to do. Like, yes, we are together. And once we truly said that to ourselves and then to each other, like, you know what, let's do this for forever, then that's where the growth comes in at.
Do you think that you have to, like, moving from roommates to a forever type situation? Do you think that you have to do therapy, or like what else needs to be done other than deciding that we both want each other, we both love each other? What needs to be done?
I would suggest that for early relationships and then just marriages in general that may not be at the point where they can go and have these conversations like we do at the end of the month. Because some things you do need a mediator until you get to a point where you can say, where y'all can mediate for each other and respect each other's natural thought and opinion. And again, it could be a person that you all both trust, but somebody that is can equally hear both sides, listen to both sides, and then give another point of view. So yes, I'm not against talking to, and it's funny that I'm even saying this because I remember when my wife was first telling me, let's go talk to somebody. Well, I was so far against it. But again, as we journeyed, I see that it helps because again, sometimes we're in competition and we want to be right and we want to, say, no, this is my truth in the way that it should be. But talking does help for sure.
And you could always tell when a man really, really loves their wife. You could love her, but then you could really love her. Sometimes it's a way that they look at her. It's just different things. So I'm gonna ask you, because I do know that you really do love your wife. How did you feel as a man, like looking back, when you first heard her and you first saw the tears or whatever? How did you actually feel at that point?
I think the truth is this. I think that because she was the mother of my kids, that I always respected her. But at the time, I wouldn't naturally say that I cared. I would say that I was more use the negative that we had in the past and the things that we were going through as an excuse to have a way out. I really believe that that is the answer. So my wife would never, even back then, never truly have a need because she's the mother of my kids. But when she needed me, I didn't give her that. And I think that as men, and I kind of use this a lot, that we do take things for granted. And before, I think that I put my wife in some bad situations, even with the discipline of my oldest boy. And one of the reasons why, and I don't live in regret or but I know I put my wife in a situation where I made her choose, where mentally she was at a place where she was choosing between her wife, her husband, and her child. And now that I think about that, that is a terrible thing. But again, when I was doing the things that I was doing, even with our kids, I didn't care about the way she truly felt. I care about me getting my point across, about it seeming that I was right and I knew what I was doing. And I was more just moving with the flow, to be honest.
Right. So looking back now, you do realize, you can realize, and that takes a man. So that's, another point of the diary of the broken man. You get to actually look back and see how some of those things actually, you know, affected the ones that you love. So
100%.
why do you think that men and women, I'm gonna say black, because I think this is a black thing in this case. Why do you think that black men and women aren't getting married like they used to?
Because it's not frowned upon anymore. Before I think that a lot of times we were pushed to marriage, but we're just really so it's socially accepted now. And then women are making the same amount of money as men. So where before women were dependent on the man for survival. That doesn't have to happen anymore. So women don't have to take our crap as men anymore. And then they all women that are accepting anything from men. So men are not don't have to go and provide and be this knight in shining armor, because some of the ladies are looking to get them, or they fix just like the men. So just socially, we are accepting just being in a place. I think that's our truth. We're not the world doesn't show it that that's needed, and I think that hurts us overall, because that stops the black family. Really, our strength and our power is a number, and we can do so many more things together, and we can accomplish so much, and we're so stable when there's more and when we are all together. But again, right now we're fighting to prove that I don't need you.
That's big. So, would you consider yourself a proponent for marriage?
I would, because it's such a beautiful thing when it's done the right way. And again, even with all the things that I've gone through in my household, it's a beautiful thing to come home, and I joke, and I won't be vulgar. If my wife not here and I pull up, I sit outside. Look, I ain't no reason to go up in there by myself. But it is, because when it's done right, it's just so pure. And when I'll use my household, when everybody's clicking and everybody's doing what they're supposed to do, it's a God sent thing. So I am for it for sure.
Let me ask you a question. Why is it that women, when they get divorced, or if their husband passed and they get divorced, they consider marriage again? But for men, almost every man that I know that has been married, they always say, "I'm never getting married again. I'm never getting married again."
It's two things. One, because I would believe that the value of marriage in that person's eyes has been decreased. Because again, and I'll even use me for an example. So, how I just said that my marriage is a beautiful thing. I don't want, because I know how much work it took to bring my marriage to where it is. Donna, I don't have that kind of time to give to nobody else. So
Oh man, right.
yeah, so for me, and again, spiritual, it's just easier for me at that point to just exist, because I know what it took to get from A to Z. And it is naturally, now it's a beautiful thing, but it's also been one that has been draining. So I think that that's it. We use, and even for myself, well, maybe we can say, well, that's an excuse, but no, it's not that I won't even run back to the street, but we avoid work. Nobody want to go to work every day. Yeah, I know I need my money and I have to go and punch the clock or whatever, but I don't want to go to work if I don't have to. If somebody was going to pay me my salary and I could stay home or just go throughout life, I would stay home and go throughout life, because work is hard and marriage is hard.
So, how important is it to you to teach this to your boys? So, if your son comes to you talking about marriage or whatever,
Yeah.
like what type of advice would you give him?
Let me tell you, my son's gonna be grown men, so they're gonna be traditional men. But it is important. And I talk even to my little one, like, about cruises, and we joke about, like, when my boys get old, like the vacation and things like that. It's important because we need each other overall. So I want my sons, and that's again one of the reasons why we've had problems with my oldest boy, because I want him to be a certain thing. When I pass and I go on, I want to know that my son is out here taking care of his family, that his family is able to do some of the same things that, my family did and that he was able to do with us. So I am pushing that, because again, we need it. Again, if we continue to fight each other, we'll have nothing but separation, and that's not it. I don't want my son, out here having a lot of sex, but not still having a void, because that's what I think makes us broken. Men, women, we can go and get sex from anywhere. Women could, yeah, y'all can make a post and have 1,000 DMs to have sex. Men, they can go and pay $1,000 and have sex every time they wanted to, because people will accept it. But it is bigger than that. And I think that we should be raising our boys to be true men, because outside of that, or what the world sees as a true man, because outside of that, there's nothing but failure that can come because they'll be a void in both places, in a male's life and then a female's life. Again, I believe that naturally we want to exist with somebody, and if we continue to battle each other, it'll never happen.
That is so true. And that's actually one of the things I feel bad about with my own life. I look at my boys and I'm just like, you would think that boys that's raised by their mom would be more respectful toward women and stuff like that. But I don't know. I'm kind of scared. I mean, I don't want how you say you don't want to claim it, but I'm not seeing those signs that you should be looking for when it comes to your sons and the women that they choose. Look like they act like they daddy. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like
A lot of times I say this, and this is again me being an equal opportunist. Well, like one of the questions that I always ask to women in general, two questions. I'll ask you both. The first question is, have you ever heard a man? I'm asking you, has a man ever told you that you were dating or with that he was scared?
that he was scared, like scared of
That he
the.
was scared of something.
Well, yeah,
Okay. All right. And have you ever used the phrase "stop crying like a girl"?
yeah, all the time.
All right. So two things, right? So a man, like even for you to think about, I have to take that time to think about, has a man ever told you that he's scared, right? Because it wasn't just right off. That's something. Well, damn, have I heard about that? But sometimes even as mothers, um, you all train us to be the husbands that you don't want. All right. So every time you say stop crying like a girl, well, you tell me to hold my emotions. And then as a husband, you look for me to, how come you're not telling me what you're thinking? Not necessarily you, all right, but now I've heard all my childhood stop crying like a girl. So I hold everything in. So where I want to be vulnerable and I want to show not disrespect, but I want to just show you some respect and let my guard down, I don't do that because my mom has trained me to stop crying like a girl. So the whole time as my wife is looking for me to pour, like I said, my wife has only known my deepest secrets 2.5, 3 years. Right? I'm 38 years old, been through some crazy stuff, but I'm not crying like a girl. So where she wants me to pour out, I'm not doing that because that's not what boys do. And sometimes as females, that's what we do. That's what happens to us, which puts us in a situation. So like that's one of the reasons why in Diary of a Broken Man, I put the male's perspective and the female's perspective, like what my wife had to do, what my mother may have had to do to help me as I journeyed. Because those little things that we hear as boys, stop crying like a girl, we take that stuff into manhood. And now, again, when we should be pouring out, we're not because y'all told us don't do that.
And see, that's tough for me. So I mean, I guess it could cry, but I mean, I don't know. I get that one is tough for me. Like, so what I'm supposed to say? All right, you could cry. You didn't cry for 5 minutes. That's enough. Like, I don't know. I
So,
guess I don't know. That's a tough one. I need some therapy on that one. I need therapy because I just feel like men are supposed to be, but I'm not very emotional either. So I guess that's why I'm like that because I'm like, what are you crying for? So I get you, but that's true. That's a good point. But I guess I need to. I don't know what I need to do. I guess just pray and hope that my children be good to whatever woman they with. I
yeah.
don't.
Have you had that conversation of what does a husband or what does a wife look like to your kids?
Well, no. Well, let me say this, and I guess that's some of the problem when it comes to like single parents,
Hmm?
stuff like that, because we don't necessarily have that example to show them. You see what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So
yeah,
I guess it's I guess I feel bad. Well, I don't say I feel bad because I mean it's just my life. I can't, it is what it is. But I mean, I have somebody now, so it's different. But I mean,
yeah,
for the most part, when my son was growing up, and he does have a father, and
yeah,
his father is involved, but he has one of those financial daddies. His daddy come around when it's time to pay and when it's time to make a decision, and I mean, I knew it was going to be trouble from the beginning, but he didn't see it. But now he sees it and he sees the damage that it did when you only come around to pay for something or to come to discipline.
yeah.
So technically I did not, I wasn't able to show. That's why I was just assuming you see what your mom go through, you see how much she does to make sure you have this and you have that. I would have thought that it would make you have more love and more respect and more reverence for a woman to see that.
It's funny because my pastor talked about this like 2 weeks ago at service, and he mentioned something that you just said. Um, your kids see how you provide. And with anything, after so long, it becomes their norm. So the hard work that you put in, that doesn't make them raise an eyebrow anymore because they know that mama's going to do it. So while you could be thinking, okay, they have to know the sacrifice that it took for me to get whatever thing A was. They don't see the sacrifice anymore. They just see thing A because they know mama is who she is. Mama gonna come through. So, that was big even for us to hear just recent. So, and that's why I asked that question. We have to start looking at things just a little bit different. So, just like, all right, our boys both 17, 18. We have, look, what does marriage look like in your eyes? And start to have that type of conversation because it's not too late to groom. They're gonna hear those things, and that's the thing that make me want to knock my big boy out sometimes because I think he not listening, and then he hit me with something, and it's something I said. But we just have to start to again have those conversations because not as even as kids anymore because not the our boys. They're about to go into the world, so it's time for us to start talking to them just a little bit different, to just see if they grabbed all those nuggets, but to also to make sure that you can be proud and say, okay, well, I think my wife should cook for me every single day, a different meal every single day, Monday through Saturday. And we have those conversations. Well, let's see if that's reality. Do you plan on your wife working? All right. So you plan on how to work. Okay. So what time she's going to work, how can she do that, because those are the things that it's time for our kids to start to see, because that is a reality. So not just asking what does a wife look like, but to start to break some of those things down that way they see what reality really is. It's fun. I posted this question last night.
Oh, you did?
I
Oh,
look, I would tell myself that all is well. Because I know for a fact when I was younger, I just had to make it. I needed a lot of money. We grew up poor, or what people would call, poor. And I just ran the race. I ran the race. Another question I asked, and this is two things like, what does happiness look like? And then what does joy look like? And that really is two different questions. Like what makes me happy and then what brings me joy. But um don't run the rat race, man. Like all is well is gonna happen. Especially I'm a believer. If you're a believer, the birds are not out here chasing down a dollar and food. So just take it easy. Talk to somebody. And don't hold things in. You are not the only person that's going through your situation. You're not crazy. So all is well.
okay. Another question. So you said you grew up poor. When you were growing up, did you know that you were poor?
I would say, yeah, shoot. I knew we were poor, man. We used to have to go and get water from like a relative's house, and we put it in like in Kentwood containers, and we were taking baths over the stove. And yes, I knew I was poor for sure. And one of the things, again, I talk about this in Diary of a Broken Man, was even when I had money, I still lived poor. And listen, truth, I just stopped saving paper plates and plastic forks like 2 years ago, and I make good money. I make good money, but I was so scared to lose it because those times damaged me, man. Like to be honest, like I knew what it was like at 10 years old to go and steal a meter from somebody else to cut my lights on. So yes, I knew I was poor, and again, for even growing and becoming a man, like you're dealing with a man and you're wondering why he's saving paper plates and plastic utensils, and y'all know y'all make good money. And that's because I'm thinking about when Susan Waterboard came and pulled the meter out of the ground, and we went to Home Depot and got a pipe and put it back in, and we had the T grip to turn the water back on. So again, sometimes, and this is why Diary of a Broken Man is so important, because you could be thinking that your husband is just, or your spouse, whoever, is crazy and he operates broke. But he has to be willing to tell you that, there was days where we had the lights out all day while energy was, out reading meters. And when we, at 6 o'clock, when we knew the office was closed, we put the meter back in and turned our lights back on. But if I'm not willing to tell my partner that, you think I'm just out here, living crazy, and it's not. I'm broken. I got some stuff going on in my head.
Right. Okay. So can you tell everybody how they can follow you and how they can purchase your two books?
Yep. So my website is poweruponline.net, www.poweruponline.net. And then also my social media, I have two pages. The easiest one is just Nicholas, Nickolas, the Great, and then number one on Instagram. So Nicholas the Great One. I do have PWRUP 2019 also. And then on Facebook, it's the same, Nick Power Up Thomas.
Is there a third book on the way?
Oh my gosh, you're probably the fourth, fifth person that's asked me that in this past month. I don't know if the Lord's trying to give me a message right now, but oh my gosh, I don't know what the, I'm afraid to even say I don't know what God has planned for me. I do not know. Jeez Louise, I don't know.
He talking to you. Then you need to listen.
Jeez Louise.
So you speaking for the men. They need this. We don't have a lot of strong men out there leading
Yeah,
it. So look, every strong man we have that's out there making a difference. So like, I don't know if I ever told you this, but I always commend men that's out there doing different things. The way we grew up with not a lot of daddies around. So
yeah,
when I went to the park, they didn't have daddies. Only daddies they had out there was the white daddies. They might have had a couple black ones here and there, but we didn't have daddies. But
yeah,
I think with you all, once I made it to Samson with y'all, I saw daddies, and I think me, Dewan, and Simone and Tiff, it wasn't that many mamas. It was
yeah,
daddies. So they had daddies that was involved. So I appreciate that, and I commend you men for being stand up guys, like volunteer coaches, like, and y'all was serious. I mean, y'all had them boys looking good. I still watch them old videos and stuff. And look, I still get mad. Look, I still be upset. Them couple of years we just couldn't take McHugh when we were just so close.
yeah,
I was
yeah,
whew, I was low key depressed for real in real life. I was so mad. I was like,
yeah.
but we had some good times over there at Samson. And like I said, we had a lot of good men, a lot of good stand up men. So I do appreciate that. I commend you. Sometimes they say I'm hard on men, but I really appreciate the ones that's really out there doing it, and that's, working with the kids, and you don't have to,
Yeah.
and doing that. So thank you for that. Good job with everything, with your books, your kids, your wife, everything.
Thank you.
And of course, thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing your story. And I know that, believe it or not, this month I had more men viewers than women. So I think they're really gonna like this
Good.
story will resonate with them, because I know a lot of men go through this. So thank you, Nick, and I'm sure you'll be back on at some point when you get ready for number three.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate you.
All right, perfect. So thank y'all for staying around. Make sure y'all go pick up his book. Y'all follow. Y'all do whatever y'all can. He's a life coach. He actually like a little spiritual leader. I don't know if he said that, but he like a spiritual leader as well. He's a good guy. So y'all go ahead, follow him, and pick up. And if the Lord says the same, I will see you all next week. Bye bye.